27 minutes to 5, news at 5. Let me ask you this question. What do you do when your dog or cat gets sick?
Steve Austin on ABC Radio Brisbane.
I ask that because veterinarians are meeting for their national conference in Brisbane at the moment. And yesterday they arrived for a free breakfast funded by a pet food company, only to be greeted by one woman begging them to reconsider the Australian Veterinarians Association's approved pet food products. Maria Koljanik is concerned that vets, either knowingly or unknowingly, are too closely associated with the companies that are the biggest suppliers of pet food in the world. And she has a personal reason for protesting. Her cat died after a period of treatment by her vet. But as you'll hear, she believes that there is a problem with commercially produced pet food. It's actually harming our pets, she believes, because of too much sugar. Now, I came across Maria Koljanik standing outside the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre this afternoon.
My cat got fat eating pet food. So I was buying pet food from Coles and Woolies, just the standard Snappy's Tom and Whiskas. And unbeknown to me, I didn't know the contents of that food.
You took your cat to the vet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I took my cat to the vet with obesity, and the vet said, you need to put your cat on Royal Canin weight loss management sachets. So I did that, and the cat actually got fatter.
Now, so your cat was overweight, and you took it to the vet, and he said, essentially, give it something that makes it eat more. Is that right?
That's right. So they prescribed the Royal Canin food because apparently that's premium food, and I thought it was the best food, so I paid premium price for it, and the cat started to lick it, mostly lick it, didn't really like it, and it just got fatter and fatter to the point where the cat started to drink too much water.
So as the cat's deteriorating and the vet's giving you advice, did you sort of question the advice or say, is this supposed to be happening along those lines?
No, I didn't. I took the vet's advice as gospel. Yep, and only when the cat started to drink too much water, unbeknown to me, that meant the cat had diabetes. So then I took the cat back to the vet and said, hey, the cat's living at the water bowl. Is this normal? And then the vet took some blood glucose readings on the cat and discovered it had very high glucose, and the cat now had diabetes, feline diabetes type 2. So then the vet prescribed another brand of food called Hills MD diet, which has 15.7% carbohydrates in that diet. Unbeknown to me, I had no idea that 15.7% is a very high carbohydrate diet. So I was actually contributing to the cat's high glucose. In between this, the cat kept going back to the vet for glucose testing, 12-hour curves. I kept feeding it the food, and basically we had troubles controlling the diabetes.
This continued, and sadly, your cat died.
Well, what happened next was I took it to the veterinary specialist service and said, hey, I need someone to manage my cat overall. And what happened there was they said, start feeding your cat the feline diabetic food in the Royal Canin. So I did that, and I didn't know that food was a water-depleted diet, and you should not give that food to a diabetic cat.
How do you know? You're not a vet. How do you know that?
Oh, I didn't know. I was very gullible. I paid thousands of dollars at the vet. I had no idea. It's a prescription diet. So I trusted the vet.
Did they actually specify the brand of product?
They only stocked at the veterinary specialist service at the time the Hills product.
So they didn't say you must use brand X, but they only had one brand they were prescribing to you for your cat?
Yeah, in that hospital where the cat went for a 3-day hospital glucose curve, there was only one brand there that they stocked. Since then, they've stocked more, which is Purina and the Royal Canin. There's only 3 brands on the market that I know of.
So where did all this end up?
Oh, well, eventually it ended up with $15,000 out-of-pocket expense and a fat diabetic cat no teeth, with a feeding tube in it, and eventually it died. All because of a diet-induced disease.
So you, after spending so much money on the cat that you loved and it died, you did your own research and came here to Brisbane, a fair way away from where you live on the south side, as I understand it, to attend the Australian Veterinary Association conference. And you got here very early this morning, so tell me the story of what happened today.
Yeah, so I got up at 4 o'clock this morning, and a car and a train trip in here, and I wanted to come here to make a very clear point and a very clear message to the Australian Veterinary Association that the food they're prescribing under prescription has the wrong calories for cats. Cats are carnivores, strict obligate carnivores, and they're designed to eat a raw meaty bones diet. And I'm angry at the whole veterinary establishment for giving me the wrong dietary advice for a diet-induced disease.
So what happened when you came into the convention centre here in Brisbane this morning? Tell me the story of what occurred.
Well, I actually came in yesterday as well, and I got here at 6 a.m. and I went up to their meeting breakfast, and I set up my table, my protest table, and the security turned up and told me, you can't be in this building, you need to leave now. And I refused to leave because I believe I have a right to get my message out. So they said, we're going to call 000, and they did. The police didn't turn up for another 60 minutes, so I had another 60 minutes to tell my story. Each time the veterinarians came through, I held up my bag of sugar and I held up my pet-filled video, and I said to them, stop prescribing this junk food.
So you're holding up a bag of sugar, showing them just how much sugar is in veterinary prescribed pet food.
That's correct. So every bag of dry food, a 4 kilogram bag of dry food, has between 40 to 60% carbohydrates.
So when you did this in the morning and you were just holding the bag and your DVD up showing them what you were concerned about, what was the reaction, what was the response from the veterinarians going into the conference?
A lot of the veterinarians walked past me very quickly, running into the room. Some of them stopped and said, yes, well, actually, I feed my own cat and dog raw meaty bones at home. I had a couple of American integrated vets come up to me and say, yes, we know about the food issue, and they don't prescribe that food. So
were you allowed to stay inside the conference hall?
I was, but I asked them, hey, why are you going into that Royal Canin breakfast if you don't believe in... And they said, well, it's a free breakfast. Yeah, so these companies are funding conferences, membership, veterinary schools, hospitals, giving them free donations and so forth, and that's what they're in it for. They're in it for the money. They're not in it for the best health interests of your cat and dog. So
did you ask them that? Did they tell you they're in it for the money? I mean, how do you know why vets are veterinarians?
Well, I mean, two of them said to me, well, we're here just for the free breakfast.
And it's a pet food company that sponsored the breakfast at the veterinary conference.
Yes. So Royal Canin is, the company is Mars Inc. And Hills Today, the company is Colgate Palmolive. You have a candy sugar company and a toothpaste company funding pet food. Yeah. So
the police were called. You were there for an hour. Were you eventually removed?
Yes. So they told me, you need to leave now. So they escorted me down the lift and outside and asked me a few questions and told me, are you coming back? I said, I'm going home now. I didn't say I was coming back tomorrow, but here I am today.
And so you're outside the convention centre with your little table with a tablecloth, a couple of DVDs entitled Pet Fooled, a photo of your cat, a massive bag of sugar, and a T-shirt naming a pet food company and saying, it killed my cat, ask me. What's been the response?
From the public, most people have come up to me and said how sorry they are. I've had a man this morning ask me, well, what do I feed my cat? If not pet food, if not the veterinary diet, what do we feed the cat? So he took photos of my pet-filled video and Raw Meaty Bones by Dr. Tom Lonsdale, the book cover, and he's going to go home and look it up on the internet. Dr. Tom Lonsdale has been blowing the whistle for 25 years on the pet food industry, and he's got some great YouTube videos on there, Stop the Mass Poisoning of Pets by Vets. So I was just so happy to be able to talk to people here today and help them to find more information, because you're not going to get the right information from the vet.
Now, well, vets are very tender people. Every time I meet a vet, they really care about animals, and they care about the people that care about animals. What is your concern about the links between these very large global food companies and the manufacture of pet foods that are sold here in Australia?
Yeah, my main concern is, yes, every vet I've come across are lovely people, but it's contracts. They're interested in protecting contracts. So if a manufacturer gives them a product with a contract, they'll go along and sell it. If you've got the university study done, which pet food companies do have done, they will, they endorse it, they promote it, and that's their Bible going forward.
So the pet food industry funds much of the research that's used by the veterinary associations around the world, is that right?
Yeah, it funds all of it as far as I know. So the vets are actually working directly for the pet food manufacturers.
Well, they're not. They're independent vets. They've got surgeries in the suburbs of southeast Queensland and Brisbane. They're working for themselves.
They've got private clinics, but in the veterinary schools, all their research papers, all their journals, everything's funded by the pet food industry. Yeah? So, and that trickles down to their day-to-day practices.
So bottom line, what do you want, Maria? You can't get the cat that you love back. What do you want?
I want people to know that cats and dogs are carnivores, and that carnivore meaning, have a look at the cats in Australia Zoo. Have a look at how they're being fed there. They're being fed whole food, carcasses, fresh food. So I want people to know that animals have to eat fresh food. And the only two animals at the moment being discriminated against are cats and dogs. So we need to get our animals eating fresh food, and it's raw meaty bones.
What was your cat's name?
Princess. Yeah, Princess.
Thanks for telling me the story.
Okay, thank you.
Maria Koljanik, who was running a one-woman protest outside the national conference at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre at the Australian Veterinarians Association conference today. Now, I went inside the convention centre, went up to where the conference was to confirm her claim that the pet food companies had put on the breakfasts, and it seems to be correct. As far as I could tell, it was very clearly, in fact, it was proudly branded that the pet food companies were indeed sponsoring the breakfasts that were apparently free at the convention centre for the vets. So I've contacted the Australian Veterinary Association, and I'm hoping on the program tomorrow we'll have someone from the AVA to address this issue of links between pet food manufacturers, pet food research, and the Australian Veterinarians Association. The Royal Canin Pet Food Company, I've managed to determine, is a subsidiary of Mars Incorporated. They describe themselves as a global leader in the pet food industry. I tried to contact Royal Canin, who Maria in that story mentioned, and we were referred by a PR person whose name was on the press release to Vision Australia. Now, this is sounding very strange, but this is what happened. Vision Australia, because they are the contact people for Guide Dogs Australia, and apparently Guide Dogs Australia accept a range of pet food products or sponsorship of some sort from Royal Canin, the pet food company, and others, and Hills. So we've got a request in, we're chasing down the company, we're chasing down the Australian Veterinary Association, and I expect on the program tomorrow we'll have some sort of formal industry response. But there does appear to be certainly the pet food companies are owned by those major food conglomerates that she mentioned. And Royal Canin in February of this year did release a statement looking at the potential reasons, and I'm quoting Royal Canin, the potential reasons behind the pet obesity crisis. And as I read the statement, it appears that they sponsored a survey, an international survey, or a survey was done of pet owners around the world. And essentially that survey says the reason why pets are getting fat is not because of the food itself or the pet food, but it's because the owners give the animals what they're asking for. So we'll explore that tomorrow, hopefully, with the Australian Veterinarians Association. I've got their big conference. Jenny, who's a GP vet, sent me a note saying, Steve, dogs in the wild eat fresh, raw food and live to around 6 years of age. Our pets now live to an average of 15 years due to good diet and preventative health care like vaccinations. Coincidence doesn't equal causation. Jenny, you're absolutely right. I accept that, but there clearly is some questions around this to be asked. Mark of the Sunshine Coast says, well done, Maria. And Tony of Clayfield says, I agree, veterinary advice is sometimes compromised. There is and goes on to talk about a small local business in Brisbane that produces excellent, well-balanced pet food using ethically sourced meat. So I'll see what I can find out for you, and I'll get some further information for you on this tomorrow.